Hi everyone and welcome to our Sunday Club video this week. We hope that you've had a great Easter and it's good to be back with you whether you're watching this on Sunday morning or sometime in the week. It's great to have you watching. This week we are going to be thinking a little bit about a story of Jesus walking along the road with two people who don't recognise who he is. It's just after Jesus has risen from the dead, so of course people aren't expecting to see him. And so we'll find a little bit more out about that story as we go along. But first we're going to do some singing and some dancing with one of my favourite songs, and Sandy is going to lead us. You might want to have a flag or an instrument or something to wave during this song because it's one to celebrate that Jesus has risen from the dead. Let's sing together.
Hello. Can you see what I've got here? Can you guess what it is? It's an upside down Spider-Man. Let's turn him up the right way. Do you like reading or watching stories about Spider-Man? I like the way he can cling to surfaces with his web and how his spider sense helps him detect danger when he's out on a mission. He's a superhero, but not a real one. My real superhero is Jesus, who had a mission to save real people. He's our champion. In the past few weeks, we've heard the Easter story about how Jesus was killed and then came alive again, just like he said he would. His friends were so sad when he was killed, but when he rose from the dead, they were unbelievably happy. And they said to one another, "He has risen." There's a song with just those words, "He has risen." So it would be lovely if you could join with me when we sing it together. We're going to sing "He has risen" as a chorus, and I'm hoping that you will be able to clap or have a shaker or a flag or be able to jump up and down to the music because it's really exciting music. So let's have a practice with the chorus first. Got my shaker? He has risen, he has risen, he has risen, Jesus is alive. He has risen, he has risen, he has risen, Jesus is alive. Now I'm going to clap. He has risen, he has risen, he has risen, Jesus is alive. He has risen, he has risen, he has risen, Jesus is alive. Right, get your shakers, get your flags, be ready to jump up and down. We're going to do it for real now. Are you ready? He has risen, he has risen, he has risen, Jesus is alive. He has risen, he has risen, he has risen, Jesus is alive. When the life flowed from his body, seemed like Jesus' mission failed, but his sacrifice accomplished
That is such a great song, isn't it? Now we are going to go over to Romy. And Romy is going to tell us the story about Jesus walking with two of his friends who don't recognise him straight away. And she's also going to teach us how to do a craft that reminds us of this story. So you're going to need some equipment ready. I will put up a slide and you can pause this video and go and get the stuff you need. Have fun!
Hello everyone, it's really good to be back at Sunday Club after the Easter holidays, and I hope you've had a good 2 weeks off school and that you've had a good week at school this week. And today we're going to be thinking about the way that we look at things and the way that we understand things. And I want to start by looking at this book, which I love, which is called Eye Illusions. And if you look in this book, it's got lots of pictures, which when you first look at them don't look very interesting at all. They just look like patterns. They don't really look like they've got much to them. But when you look at them for a very, very long time and start to look in a slightly different way, you realise that inside are 3D, three-dimensional pictures of things like maybe a car or a train, or one of them's got a heart in, one of them has got a castle in it. But you have to look at them in a slightly different way to understand them. And that's what our Bible story is about today. And I've got some little people here because in our story today there were two men who were walking along the road, and these two men were very, very sad. They were very fed up, very down, and they were walking slowly along the road to a place called Emmaus. And they were talking to each other about what had happened in the last few days. And coming along the road behind them was another man who was walking a bit more quickly. And so he caught up with them and he heard them talking. And he said to them, "Hey, what are you talking about, guys?" And they said, "Oh, haven't you heard? You must be the only person in Jerusalem who doesn't know what's happened." And he said, "Oh, what's happened? Tell me." So they said, "Well, we're really sad and we're really fed up because we had a very special friend and he was arrested some days ago, and then he was tried, and then he was killed, and then he was buried. And then just a couple of days ago, some friends of ours told us that they'd gone to the tomb where he had been buried, and actually he wasn't there anymore. His body had been taken, and they thought that he was alive again. And well, we just don't know what to think. This doesn't make a lot of sense to us. We can't really understand what's going on, and we don't really know." And by the time they'd had this conversation, they'd actually got to Emmaus, and they decided to have a meal together. And during the course of that meal, the man that had walked with them all the way along the road, they realised actually was their very special friend, Jesus, who had been killed and had been buried, but that he had in fact risen again and was alive and had walked along the road with them. And they were so happy when they realised that when they looked at things in a different way, they recognised Jesus for who he really was. And I thought we could do a craft today that involves looking at pictures in a slightly different way. And if you look at this picture that I've got here, I wonder what you see. Do you see a dinosaur? But if I turn my picture round, I wonder what you see. Do you see Spider-Man? And I think that shows us that if we look at the same thing in a slightly different way, we can see something very, very different. And these pictures are really easy to make, so I'm going to show you how to make one today. And you need to start off with 2 pictures. And my picture here is of a pig, and this picture that I've used for this one is of a cupcake. And it doesn't matter at all what pictures you use, but the most important thing is that your 2 pictures start off in this, that's the same size. It doesn't matter if they're big or if they're small, but they do both need to be the same size. And then the only other thing you need is a piece of A4 white paper. And you need to put your picture onto the A4 paper, and you need to keep the width the same, but you do need to carefully measure to the 2 pictures together so that you cut 1 piece of A4 white paper, so it'll be twice as high as my pig picture, because I'm going to put my cupcake picture on the top and cut that out and carefully measure it. And then on the back of your 2 pictures, you need to split it carefully. It does take a little bit of careful measuring this. Split it carefully into maybe 3 sections, or if it's really big you could do 4 or 5 or 6. My Spider-Man picture was bigger, so I did it into 4 sections. But my pig picture is only quite small, so I've only done that one into 3 sections, but they have to be all the same size. And then you need to cut your piece of A4 paper out, which is going to be twice as high, but the same width. And you need to measure those strips exactly the same size. And you need to start to fold along the lines that you make on your A4 white piece of paper, and fold it in a zigzag so that you're making like stairs on your white piece of paper. And then we need to cut along those lines that we've drawn on the back of our pictures, and just cut it out very carefully. And in this case we've got 3 different strips that our pig is going to be in. And then, so I've already glued my cupcake picture on, and you need to glue those strips so that you've got a gap between each strip. And when you glue your second picture on, you need to turn it over so that your second picture goes upside down to your first picture. So here's the top of my cupcake picture here. So the top of my pig picture has got to be down this end. And it's a little bit tricky to get them in there upside down and in the right order. So you might want to ask an older brother or sister to help, or maybe your mum or your dad. And you just need to glue those strips on. Make sure you get them the right way up and in the right order. Otherwise it really will just look like a random strip of pictures. Put some glue on his feet, put him on there. And then when you fold it in the zigzags, one way you can see your pig, and one way you can see your cupcake. It takes a little bit of practice to get it right, but I think that's quite clever, and it helps to remind us that we sometimes need to think about things and look at things in a slightly different way for us to be able to understand them. Until next time, bye bye.
Well, that's all for today, folks. We hope you've enjoyed Sunday Club and thinking about Jesus rising from the dead and talking with 2 of his friends and then recognizing him when he spoke to them. But let's pray together as we go, and we'll see you next week. So God, thank you that you sent Jesus to die for us and to rise again so that we could be friends with you. We ask that this week you would help us to be good friends, and you would help us to know how much you love us. Amen. See you next week, everyone.